right, good afternoon and welcome to the Prospective Plantings and Grain Stocks Briefing. My name is Lance Honing and I serve as acting chair of the Agricultural Statistics Board here at NASS. This briefing is for the Secretary of Agriculture and other policymakers at USDA to better understand the content and context of today's reports. We're very pleased to have Robert Bonney, USDA's Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation, join us as Secretary Designate today. We also welcome Dr. Seth Meyer, USDA's Chief Economist. Mr. Secretary, Dr. Meyer, I'd like to share that we've got a lot of visitors in the room. You probably noticed that when you came in. We've got a bunch of folks here from the New Jersey Agricultural Leadership Development Program. We've got some staff from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, some folks from NASS, as well as some folks from Rural Development. And then also I would like to welcome Acting Deputy Secretary for Administration, Dwayne Williams. So thank you for joining us. While I have the opportunity, I'd also like to express our appreciation to some of our field staff who came in earlier in the process to help us with the preparation for today's reports. That included Charles Butler from our Northeastern Regional Field Office, Gretchen Divinson from the Heartland region, and Bill Morris from the Upper Midwest. Before I turn things over to our presenter, I do have a few notes for our live streaming audience. The Prospective Plantings and Grain Stocks reports are considered principal federal economic indicator reports. The Office of Management and Budget provides specific guidance on how these important release reports are to be released. OMB statistical policy instructs policymaking officials to refrain from making public comment on the content of these reports within 30 minutes of their release. Therefore, we will not be taking questions from the public during this briefing. NASS staff will be available to take email and phone questions, and we'll also host a social media event at 1:15 Eastern Time this afternoon. Now, we strive to have everything presented in this briefing match the official record. However, should there be any discrepancy, always refer to the official published estimates. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Nick Streff. Nick is the acting chief of the crops branch here at NASS. So, Nick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will be taking you through several reports, including the grain stocks report, prospective plantings, and rice stocks. Before we get into the data, I'd like to share with folks that after every cycle of the Census of Agriculture, NASS does a program review. This is when we look across all of our commodity programs to make sure that the relevant states are included in those programs. The changes for this have already been posted to our website and will continue to be posted over the next several weeks as we work through our livestock and crops program review. Now on to the data sources for these reports. First is our March Agricultural Survey. This is where we speak to farmers and ranchers across the country, ask them what they intend to plant for this coming season, and also if they have any grains or oilseeds stored on their operation. The sample size for this March Ag Survey was roughly 72,000, and the data collection was the first 2 weeks of March. The graphic of the US there notes the sample size for the March Ag Survey by state. The darker the orange color, the higher the sample size. For off-farm grain stocks, we also go to commercial facilities. We spoke to our sample size is roughly 8,000 facilities for off-farm grain stocks, also asking the questions of what was stored on those facilities as of March 1st for grains and oilseeds. Something we like to remind everyone about for our March Prospective Plantings report is that these are intentions of the producers at the time we talk to them. So note the yellow bars there on the left, note the first few weeks when we talk to them. We're here at the end of March delivering the report. And then that's when planters start rolling for the corn and soybean crops, which is noted by those gray and black lines. Then we go back out in June, which is noted there by the orange bar on the right-hand side of the graph, to talk with these producers again to true up these acreage estimates to see what they really were able to get planted. So once again, these are intentions and they could possibly change. Moving to our first data point, our principal crop acreage. This is made up of our 22 federal principal crops, which are noted there in the blue box at the bottom of the graph, at the bottom of the slide. We are sitting at 313 million acres for principal crops. That's down 2% from the previous year, or 6.15 million acres decrease from last year. Looking at it over time, you can see the recent trends for our principal crop acres going back to 2015. Looking at our principal crop acres by state, before I get into the numbers here, just how to read this slide. If it's a red state, that means it's down from the previous year. The darker the red, the higher the percent decrease. Similar for if it's a blue state, it's an increase from the previous year. The darker the blue, the higher the percent increase. And if you see a number sign that denotes a record high, or an ampersand sign that denotes a record low. Now for this data, on this slide here, we have 12 states that are up with a record high expected in Alaska, 2 states unchanged, with 35 states that are down from the previous year, with record lows expected in Georgia and Pennsylvania. Our principal crop acres, as we're looking through these, this history chart shows that over time, when we talk to producers in March, they rarely increase more than 1% from where we started from. And when you see the large decreases percent year over year, that's often noted when there was a planting delay or a larger prevent plant year. So note 2019 as being one of those examples. So for the most part, when we talk to the producers at this time of year, we have a general idea of the acres they're going to plant for this year, although that crop mix could change. All right, on to our first commodity. Corn, sitting at 90 million acres, is down 4.9% from the previous year. That's down 4.6 million acres. You know, here's the recent history of corn over time, that 90 million acres, and noting how it matches up with going back to 2015. And then if we look at the changes by state for corn acres, I'd like to note that 38 of the 48 estimating states are down or unchanged from the previous year. We have planted acre decreases of 300,000 acres or more in 8 states, including Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Ohio, South Dakota, and Texas. Those were all down 300,000 acres or more. Moving on to industry expectations, a note on how to read this slide. The blue dots represent individual published industry analyst expectations, and the red dot would represent the NASS estimate in comparison. So if you would look at this, you can see NASS is at the low end of the industry expectations at 90 million acres. And you can see there is just one blue dot right there with the NASS red dot. So we are just within the trade expectations for corn planted acres. Moving on to soybeans at 86.5 million acres, that's up 3.5% from the previous year, or up 2.9 million acres. You can see our top 5 growing states are all up from the previous year. Looking at this over time, this would be the 5th highest planted acres for soybeans, with 2017 being the highest. You can see there on the graph. And moving on to states. We're looking at record high planted acres in Kentucky and equaling a record in New York. Note some of the larger changes. North Dakota is up 700,000 acres and Missouri would be up 400,000 acres with this soybean planted estimate. Looking at the industry expectations, the NASS number of 86.5 million is right in the middle of the range for the industry expectations for soybeans. Now, if we were to take those 2 of our major crop acreages and combine them just to kind of show where the major acreages are, you can see that that combined acreage is nearly 177 million acres, which is down 1% from the previous year. You can see there's quite a bit of red on this map in terms of with soybeans being down up 2.9 acres, but corn is down that 4.6 million acres. That's how that would stack up. And we're moving on to industry expectations. You can see NASS would be outside of the range if in the combined acres of these 2 as well. All right, moving on to all cotton acreage at 2.7 million acres. That's up 4.3% from the previous year. That's up 443,000 acres. You can see here is how cotton compares with recent history, going back to 2015. Looking at cotton acreage by state, we did have a decrease in our largest cotton state of Texas. They are down 39,000 acres. However, we had an increase in Mississippi of 100,000 acres and an increase in Oklahoma of 80,000 acres from the previous year. Looking at trade expectations, NASS is within the range of cotton trade expectations. Moving on to wheat at 34.1 million acres, we are down 0.8% from our previous estimate in December for wheat acres and down 7% from the previous year. Looking here at the chart over time, although wheat is down from last year, it is the second highest acreage since 2017. Looking at wheat acres by state, we're expecting record lows in Michigan, Utah, and Virginia, with only 2 states expecting increases, those being Montana and Washington. We had decreases in Texas of 500,000 acres and decreases in Kansas of 400,000 acres from the previous year. If you look at the industry expectations, you can see back in December, NASS is at the low end of its industry expectations, and the NASS estimate continues to be on the low end of industry expectations for the March estimate as well. Looking at other spring wheat, we're at 11.3 million acres, up 1.2% from the previous year, or an increase of 135,000 acres. If realized, looking at the recent history of this would be the first time in this graph, this recent history, where spring wheat acres would increase 2 years in a row. Looking at it by state, while the largest state, North Dakota, is down 250,000 acres, Minnesota is forecast to be up 300,000 acres, and South Dakota up 110,000 acres. For spring wheat, NASS is at the top end of the industry expectations at 11.3 million acres. Looking at durum wheat at 2.03 million acres, that's up 21.7% from the previous year, or an increase of 352,000 acres. This would be the highest durum wheat acres since 2018. And looking at it by state, none of the major durum wheat producing states are expected to decrease. All are going to stay same or increase from the previous year. North Dakota is looking to be up 195,000 acres, Montana up 145,000 acres. So for durum wheat industry expectations, NASS is outside the range at that 2.03 million acres. Several other crops to run through here today. Barley at 2.6 million acres is down 17.3%. We're expecting record lows in Colorado, Idaho, Maryland, and Oregon. Canola at 2.4 million acres is up 0.9% from the previous year. This would be a record US planted acres if realized. Chickpeas at 429,000 acres is up 15.2%. Dry edible beans at 1.3 million acres is up 11.5%. Dry edible peas at 974,000 acres is up 0.8%. Moving on to flaxseed at 105,000 acres is down 41% from the previous year. If realized, this would be the lowest planted acres for the US total since 1996. And for North Dakota, the largest flax producing state, they're forecast at a record low going back to 1920. All hay is forecast at 51.6 million acres, down 2.4%. Lentils at 762,000 acres are up 39.6%. Oat acreage at 2.3 million acres is down 9.3% and would be a record low US planted. Peanuts at 1.7 million acres are up 0.4% from the previous year. Rice acreage at 2.9 million acres is up 1.3%. Sorghum acres at 6.4 million acres is down 11.1% from the previous year, with the two largest states being down. Kansas down 250,000 acres, Texas down 500,000 acres from the previous year for sorghum. Sunflower at 958,000 acres is down 27.2%. Now this is an all sunflower number, and if realized, this would be the lowest on record since 1976 for a combined acreage for sunflowers. Planted acreage is down in all eight of the major sunflower producing states. Tobacco at 165,000 acres, harvested is down 11.9% and would be a record low harvested acres. Now these next 3 slides I'm going to go through all show similar forms of data. First, just to go back to reference our 22 principal crops. This is just the total acres that are out there. So you can see corn and soybeans leading the pack there at 90 million and 86.5 million. The next chart is similar information, but showing the percent change from year to year. So you can see durum wheat up 21% from the previous year, while sunflowers are down 27.2% from the previous year. And then the final slide of this information is showing the acreage change. So soybeans up 2.9 million acres from the previous year. while corn was down 4.6 million acres from the previous year. Okay. Moving on to wheat stocks. All wheat stocks totaled 1.09 billion bushels, up 146 million bushels from the previous year, or 15%. On-farm stocks are up 19.5%, while off-farm stocks are up 14.3%. And this is a third quarter estimate for wheat. Looking at our graph here, quick explanation of how to read this. The blue column is the blue bar would be the total supply at the beginning of the estimating period. And then each line represents a quarterly estimate. So in this case for wheat, our 2.38 billion bushels was the beginning supply. That's up 2.5% from the previous season. Looking at disappearance from December through February of 334 million bushels. Looking at the trade expectations for all wheat stocks, NASS is at the outside of the range of the trade expectations at that 1.09 billion bushels. Moving on to corn stocks at 8.3 billion bushels, that's up 12.9% from the previous year. Off-farm stocks, are down 0.7%, while on-farm stocks are up 23.7% from the previous year. Now, this is a second quarter estimate for corn. The corn supply, beginning supply was 16.7 billion bushels, up 11% from the previous season. The corn disappearance from December through February was 3.82 billion bushels. Looking at industry expectations for corn, we are right in the middle of the range of industry expectations. Soybean stocks at 1.8 billion bushels are up 9.4% from the previous year. On-farm stocks are up 24.5% from last year, while off-farm stocks are down 2.7% from the previous year. Of note for soybeans, the on-farm stocks are greater than the off-farm stocks for the first time since December of 2018. Normally, off-farm stocks are greater in this case. Looking at this, the beginning soybean supply was 4.43 billion bushels, and the disappearance from December through February was 1.16 billion bushels. Industry expectations. You can see here with the NASS estimate at 1.85 billion bushels within the range of industry expectations. March rough rice stocks totaled 100 million hundredweight, up 31.4% from the previous year. Both on-farm and off-farm stocks are up over 30% from the previous year. Looking at the beginning supply of 243 million hundredweight with the disappearance of 38 million hundredweight. Now moving through the rest of the stocks, NASS estimates, I'll go through those here. Barley, total barley stocks are at 112 million bushels, up 25.7%. Durum wheat in all positions is at 36.6 million bushels, up 2.1%. All oat stocks at 51.6 million bushels are up 20.2%. All sorghum stocks at 106 million bushels are down 2.7%. And total sunflower stocks at 1.2 billion pounds are up 21.7%. Looking ahead at other reports NASS will be putting out that NASS will be publishing in the near future. On April 1st, we have our current industrial reports. And also to note that it is April 1st will be the beginning of our crop progress and condition season. So for crop progress and condition, NASS will put out the crop progress and condition report on the Monday or the first working day of each week from April 1st through the end of November. April 4th is our agricultural land values final estimates that will be released to QuickStats. These are final estimates revisions from the census. April 10th is our crop production historical track records. April 11th is crop production. April 17th is the National Hemp Report. That's the third in the series of NASS releases for hemp. April 19th is cattle on feed report, and April 30th is agricultural prices. As Lance noted at the beginning of the presentation, he will be hosting Stat Chat at 1:15 p.m. today on X. And our final slide here today is to note our 2024 USDA Spring Data Users Meeting will be April 16th in Chicago. Registration information can be found on the slide or on the NASS website. You can register to attend in person. If you can't attend in person, you can register to attend virtually. Thank you for your time.